Okay, so in this sample, I want to go through an initial approach and really just kind of dial in how there's variations depending on the circumstance, depending on what happens at that door. Now, we all know there's 5 steps that I typically talk about for an effective initial approach. We talk about explaining, who you are, why you're there, what you're offering, overcoming kind of a common concern that you hear right up front, and then, ending with a conversational close, and that should be 30 to 45 seconds. But what happens in an experience that's a little bit different, and how can that approach vary, I guess, is the point of this one. You'll see with this example, I was at the door. The daughter answered the door, said, my dad's out back. So we're walking around back out of one side. Well, he's coming around the other side to us. So he kind of catches us off guard where, we're not in the door frame in a typical approach. And that led to starting the initial approach off a little differently than I typically do. So pay attention to kind of how that goes, and then we'll kind of clarify why I did what I did at that point.
Hey, the man of the house. Hi, I'm Lenny.
Yeah, regarding the Pacific Road?
Yeah, we're with Robe. So, did any of your neighbors, we just talked to Amanda, did they mention we'd be swinging by?
No.
You kind of heard? So what we're doing, we're starting a new route in this area. No bugs yet. It's new homes.
Yeah.
In fact, how long have you guys been here?
Just a year.
Just a year now? Okay.
Yeah.
First full summer then? Is that you guys going into the first? Second full summer?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Did you move from here locally? Or?
Yeah, locally.
Oh, perfect.
So if you follow that, you'll notice that I didn't include there in that first go-round kind of the third step of an effective initial approach, and that's what I'm offering. Like, what's the discount? What's the deal? Why am I there knocking on their door type of a thing? I never really, addressed that, mainly because in that unique situation where he was kind of coming around the side of his house, I think his daughter told us to walk around one side, and he came around the other side, kind of snuck up behind us there. I really wanted to get in front of diffusing any tension there. And this can happen even on the door, right? Somebody answers the door and they're pretty upset or looking like they're not in the mood to talk. A really good way to diffuse that tension is to, hey, did your neighbors tell you I'd be coming out today? Or, if you had the name drop, that's an effective way to name drop as well. Hey, did Emily next door here mention that we'd be swinging by today? Just anything to kind of diffuse the tension a little bit. That's why gathering names and having names in an area is so important, to making you feel comfortable, making people feel comfortable with you, their doorstep. But again, I think it was not until, 52 seconds in when I actually start to explain that discount. And again, the great thing about that is it's totally fine. It's not an issue if you can't go through each step of the initial approach in order. It's okay if eventually you hit each of those points at least at some point in that, that first little bit of that conversation.
Well, what we're doing is, while I've got a truck out here tomorrow, I'm going to keep him here most of the day, and we've still got a couple spots that are open during the day to do just the basic preventative treatment, just to make sure nothing gets in the house. But tomorrow, for these last 2 spots, I'm doing them for about 70% off, since we're already here.
So just to point out a couple of things in terms of, once I qualify somebody, once they've asked me how much is it, then it's all about me, taking control of the conversation back. So I'll ask a question back, pricing depends on this, square footage of home, how many square feet do you have? That gets me control back of the conversation, which then opens up the opportunity for me to value build, to explain what we do and how valuable that's going to be for their home before I just give them the price. Certainly that's that next step, that progression in, initial approach. You're looking to qualify somebody qualifies, then you've got a value build before you actually answer their question of how much is it. And again, that helps to build the value in the service that you're going to be offering.
But you guys have been in the home for a year, and again, most of the neighbors right now with this vinyl siding, they just want to make sure, you see the little spider webs in that, they just want to make sure that the base of the home is treated, the yard is treated, so that you're not going to get anything that's going to be susceptible to coming inside. You get that. So when you guys moved here, did you move from a newer home or an older home or apartment? Or
how much you charge it?
Let me show you. And now, about how many square feet do you guys have here in the house?
3 floors is altogether like almost 3,000.
Okay, 3. Yep, that's most of them are about the same, between 2,500 3,000. And just to give you an idea of what we do, we're very careful where we put products and how we treat your home.